They say every man has his breaking point. Mine came on a rainy Thursday, halfway up a skyscraper, just as the sun dipped behind the skyline and the city lights began their nightly glow. But I guess if I'm gonna tell this story, I need to start where it really began, on a gravel road outside Dothan, Alabama, where I first laid eyes on her. I was 24, just back from a long haul to Houston, covered in diesel sweat and highway dust. She was standing at the gas station counter in a ripped tank top and cut-off shorts, holding a Coke bottle to her cheek like she was trying to cool off from the sun. Hair up in a bun. One of those half-casual, half-deadly looks. I couldn't stop staring. "Take a picture," she said, not even looking at me. "Might last longer." That was how our story began. Quick. Sharp. No warning. Her name was Mandy. Born trouble, raised by it too. She didn't try to hide who she was, not at first. She told me she'd done some cam work. Said it paid more than waitressing and didn't hurt her knees as much. I was young and stupid enough to think I was different. That I could change her. That if I loved her hard enough, she'd leave that life behind. We moved into my dad's old house on the edge of town. 2 bedrooms, leaky roof, yard overgrown with weeds and broken dreams. I fixed the porch with my own hands. She hung string lights and painted everything coral pink. It looked like a house that was trying too hard to be happy. Within a year, she was pregnant, with a child that wasn't mine. I didn't ask. She didn't explain. I told myself love meant accepting everything, even the parts that stung. When that baby came, little girl named June, I held her like she was blood of my blood. Mandy said I had a heart too big for this world. She didn't say it like it was a compliment. Then came Troy, then Bobby, then Sky, then Noah. 5 kids. 5 different fathers. I raised them all like they were mine. I paid for their diapers, their school lunches, and their birthdays even when the power bill went unpaid. I worked nights hauling sheet metal and came home to her laughing in the kitchen, sipping wine like she wasn't wearing a thong someone else bought her. She started disappearing for weekends. Said she was at girls' retreats or spiritual workshops. One night she came back with a Chanel purse and bruises on her hips. I didn't ask questions. I just kissed her shoulder and pretended I didn't see. Because I loved her. I truly did. My friends called me a fool. My mama cried every time she saw me. She once said, "Boy, you lettin' the devil wear your last name." I hung up on her after that. But deep down, I knew. I knew what Mandy did in hotel rooms and luxury apartments. I knew about the websites, the encrypted messages, the men who wired her thousands for a night of their sick dreams come true. I knew about the glass elevator on 5th and Olive that only went to the private suites. And I knew she wasn't just doing it for the money. She liked it. She liked the power. The way men looked at her. The way she could wreck a room with a whisper and leave a man begging for another hour. She was an artist in her own wicked way. And me? I was just the quiet guy who fixed the sink and paid the bills. The last straw didn't come until she booked a night at the Azure Spire, the tallest building in our state. A hotel suite on the 44th floor. I only knew because her 5th kid, little Noah, accidentally dropped her unlocked phone while playing some game. I saw the texts. The room number. The names of 2 men she planned to entertain together. 2 men. Same time. On the 44th floor. That broke something inside me. But I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I didn't even confront her that night. I just waited. Watched. Took notes. And started setting things in motion. Because love can be blind, but betrayal sharpens your vision like nothing else. And I had a plan. I don't know why I drove downtown that night. Maybe I needed to see it with my own eyes. Maybe I didn't trust myself to believe it until I witnessed it. The azure spire towered above the city like it didn't know what sin looked like. All glass and gold trim, polished marble at the entrance, a valet in white gloves who gave me a nod like I belonged. I didn't belong. Not really. But I wore my cleanest jeans and a button-up shirt. The security guy didn't ask questions. Probably assumed I was just another man climbing the tower to lose himself in a warm lie. The elevator dinged open. Floor numbers climbed, one by one, until it hit 44. The doors opened into silence and carpet that felt too soft under my boots. I walked slow, not knowing what I was gonna do when I got there. I just followed the sound. Laughter. Deep. Male. Then hers, high, breathy, like she'd been drinking wine and making promises she didn't plan to keep. Room 4413. I didn't knock. I didn't need to. The door was cracked open just enough. Inside, there were two men, both of them in tailored suits, shirts already halfway undone, laughing like kings. And her. My wife. Mandy was standing between them, heels taller than I'd ever seen, red lips, no shame, not a single flicker of guilt in her eyes. She wore that same smile she used to give me when we were alone on the porch back home. That soft, slow smile that used to mean, "You're mine." But that night, it was for them. I didn't step inside. Didn't scream. Didn't make a scene. I just turned around. Because it hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, she didn't fall into this life. She ran to it. I walked back into the elevator, pressed the button, and dropped 44 floors without breathing. When I got back home, the kids were asleep. Little Noah had drooled on the couch cushion. June's bedroom door was cracked and the soft glow of her night light filled the hallway. My heart was ripping in two, but I tucked in each of those kids like I'd done 100 times before. Because they were mine, even if they weren't. But she wasn't anymore. The next morning, Mandy came home around 9:30. Still smelling like perfume that didn't belong in a family kitchen. She walked in, poured herself coffee like nothing happened. "Rough night," she muttered, rubbing her neck. "Yeah," I said. "Looked like it." She froze for a second. Eyes narrowed. "You followed me?" I didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence told her everything. "You don't understand," she began, and I swear she was ready to launch into some script, maybe one she used on her clients when their hearts got too involved. "It's not about love. It's just. Save it." She blinked. Caught off guard. "I saw enough," I said. "You've been selling pieces of yourself for years, Mandy. I've been buying groceries and wiping tears and building a life around your lies. I gave you everything," she spat. "No," I said calmly. "You gave everything to everyone else. You gave me what was left over." She started crying then. But I'd heard those tears before. They used to melt me. Used to break me down to nothing. Not anymore. "I want a divorce," I told her. "And don't ask me for a damn thing." That's when she showed her true face. The softness peeled back. The tears dried up like they were never real. "You gonna leave my kids with nothing?" she snapped. "They're not mine. Not by blood. You made that choice." She stood there like she couldn't believe I'd finally stood up. Like the man she used to control had vanished overnight. But he had. She tried to beg. Then she tried to fight. Then she sued me. Filed papers. Said I was unstable. Said I owed her child support for children I didn't father. Said I promised her everything. I showed up to court in the same boots I wore the day I met her. Told the judge everything. Quietly. Clearly. Didn't yell. Didn't blame. Just told the truth. The court sided with me. Every cent, every acre, every vehicle, every bank account, mine. She stood outside the courthouse crying, holding her fifth child in one arm and her phone in the other, calling one of her clients for help. And that's when it hit me, the part that stung the most. I still loved her. Even after everything. But love doesn't mean survival. And forgiveness, well, forgiveness is a whole different beast. I turned to her. My voice low. I forgive you, Mandy. She froze. But I'm not saving you this time. Then I walked away. You don't stop loving someone overnight. Even after everything, after the court, the elevator, the two men, the lies, I still woke up reaching for her in the dark. The way her hair used to smell in the morning. The sound of her laughing when she burned toast. It all stuck to me like ash after a house fire. But there's a moment in every man's life when grief dries up and turns into something else, something sharper. Not hate, exactly. Just clarity. I stopped asking why she did it. Stopped wondering if there was a version of us that could have survived it all. That woman was gone. The one who kissed me on the tailgate of my truck under a sky full of stars, swearing she'd never leave. She'd been gone a long time. What was left behind was just the ghost of Mandy, and she wouldn't stop haunting me. At first, she texted me constantly. Voice notes, voicemails, long apologies. She called me babe like the word still had weight. You don't understand. I had to. It wasn't about love, it was survival. You're the only man I ever felt safe with. The kids miss you. They keep asking where you are. That one gutted me the most. Because I missed them too. Not a day went by I didn't think of June's chipped smile or the way Sky snuggled into my side when he got scared during thunderstorms. I'd spent a decade raising kids that weren't mine, and still felt like they were. But Mandy tried to use them like bait. Like I could be lured back with tiny handprints and bedtime stories. And I'll be honest, for a minute, it almost worked. Almost. Then came the day she showed up at my house. It was a Sunday. I was in the garage rotating the tires on the Silverado when I heard knocking, no, banging, on the front door. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked over, and there she was. Standing there in ripped jeans and a sweater 3 sizes too big, mascara smeared, kids waiting in the car behind her like hostages. I'm not here to fight, she said. Then why are you here? I need help. I looked past her, saw little Noah with his face pressed against the window. Saw June pretending not to look. You're a mother of 5, I said. You had everything I could give. You had my money, my time, my love. And you traded it for rooms full of strangers. Now you want help? I didn't come to be shamed, she snapped. No. You came to be rescued. She didn't say anything. Just stood there on my porch, acting like she belonged again. Like this was a rerun of some old fight we used to have where I'd eventually cave. But this time, I didn't. You used me, Mandy. Used my name. My house. My decency. Then you dragged me into court and tried to take everything I ever worked for. I was angry. You were greedy. Her lips trembled. She looked down at the porch like she'd find some kind of answer in the paint chips. I thought you'd leave the house and money to the kids, she mumbled. Your kids, I said. Not mine. And it wasn't bitterness when I said it. It was just fact. She stayed quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. Then, with a voice soft as dust, she asked, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. No. I don't hate you. Tears welled up in her eyes again. But before they could fall, I added. But I don't owe you anything anymore. I closed the door. And this time, I didn't feel guilty. I sat in the kitchen afterward, same table where we used to eat burnt waffles and cheap steak. Same spot where I taught June how to count with jelly beans. I stared at the chair across from mine, where Mandy used to sit and look like she belonged to me. Now it was just a chair. Just a kitchen. And just me. But you know what? That night, I slept better than I had in years. Weeks passed. Fall settled in, leaves dried up and curled like little burnt promises. I spent most of my time working on the truck, repairing the old fence out back, and splitting firewood I'd probably never burn. It helped to move. Kept the memories from piling up too high. I didn't hear from Mandy for a while. No calls, no texts, no uninvited appearances on the porch. And for a second, I thought maybe she finally accepted it, finally realized she couldn't sell her soul and expect me to buy it back. Then the letter came. A plain envelope. No return address. Inside, a folded-up sheet of paper and a photo of the kids, lined up in front of some chain-link fence, holding a handmade sign that said "We miss you, Dad." I stared at that photo for a long time. Couldn't breathe right. I flipped the paper over. It was her handwriting. Sloppy, rushed, like she didn't want to think too hard while she was writing. They don't understand why you're gone. They think you died or something. I didn't know what to tell them. You raised them. You're more of a father than the men who made them. I messed up, I know that. But they didn't. They didn't choose this. If there's even a little bit of love left in your heart, don't punish them for what I did. At the bottom, in barely legible ink. I'm sorry. M. I folded it up and tucked it into the drawer by the sink, next to my old hunting knife and a half-used roll of duct tape. I didn't throw it away. But I didn't answer either. Because love without truth is just a pretty lie. And I'd lived in lies long enough. The next day, I drove past the low-income complex she'd moved into. Same place she once said she'd never be caught dead in. Funny how life humbles you. I saw the kids out front, trying to play with a busted soccer ball. Little Noah saw my truck and ran toward it like I was Santa Claus. I stopped. He hugged my leg so hard I thought it might snap. His eyes were wide and wet. "You're not dead," he said, like he didn't believe it until he touched me. I knelt down and held him. I didn't know what the hell to say. Mandy came out on the porch holding a cigarette and wearing one of my old hoodies. Her face was pale. She watched me like I was some animal that might bolt if she moved too quick. "Let me take them for lunch," I said. She hesitated, probably wondering what it'd cost her. "Just lunch," I added. "Nothing else." So she let them go. We hit the old diner near the highway, the one with the jukebox that never worked and the waitress who called everyone "hon." The kids piled into the booth, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. They laughed over pancakes and spilled syrup. I listened to them argue about cartoons and who could burp the loudest. I wanted to cry and smile at the same time. On the drive back, June asked me, "Are you coming home soon?" I swallowed hard. "No, baby. I'm not." "Did Mommy mess everything up?" she whispered. I didn't answer. Because how do you tell a child that their mother traded the world for bedroom ceilings and strange men's hands? Back at the complex, Mandy stood by the door, arms crossed, like she was bracing herself. "They miss you," she said as the kids ran inside. "I know. You think I don't pay for what I did every single day?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "I think you do. But that doesn't mean you get another chance." She nodded slowly. Took a drag of the cigarette. "You're still the best man I ever knew. That was your problem, Mandy. You never thought you deserved one." I walked away before she could answer. She didn't chase me. Didn't cry this time. And as I drove off, the photo she sent fluttered out of the sun visor where I'd tucked it earlier. I grabbed it, looked at it one last time. They were beautiful kids. But I wasn't their savior anymore. You can tell when someone's watching you. Even if it's from behind closed blinds or a cracked car window 2 rows down in a Walmart parking lot, you feel it in your spine. That's how it was with Mandy, weeks after the diner visit. I'd be pumping gas, and I'd catch a glimpse of her beat-up white SUV turning the corner too slow. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. She wouldn't be that desperate. She'd moved on, had to. She was the kind of woman who always had a new man orbiting her within 2 weeks of a breakup. Maybe less. But one night, as I was leaving the feed store, I saw her parked just outside the lot, smoking in the dark. Her headlights were off, but I could see her face by the ember glow of her cigarette. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I just drove past her and felt like I was being hunted by my own past. That was when I decided I had to leave town. Not forever. Just long enough to breathe. I called up my cousin Wes, who runs a small horse ranch 2 states over. Told him I needed a place to lay low and work with my hands. He didn't ask questions. Wes and I aren't the talking kind, we're the working kind. The morning I left, I didn't tell anyone. Didn't write a note. Just packed up the truck with some clothes, tools, and old memories I should have burned a long time ago. It was raining. That light, misty kind of rain that feels more like a whisper than a storm. I liked that. Quiet. I drove for 6 hours, radio off, chewing on old thoughts. Every road sign felt like a reset button. By the time I pulled into Wes's gravel drive, I felt lighter. Like I'd finally shaken her off. Wes had a spare room above the barn, simple bed, wood floors, and the smell of hay that reminded me of being 16. It was perfect. I spent the next few weeks baling hay, brushing horses, fixing fences, and helping Wes wrangle a couple of colts who didn't want to be tamed. Every night, my back hurt and my hands were cracked, but my head was finally quiet. Until one day, Wes handed me his phone. Said she was your wife. Did you tell her where I was? He shook his head. Hell no. I took the phone and walked outside to the edge of the pasture before answering. Yeah. There was silence. Then her voice, thin and cracked like old paint. Are you okay? I didn't say anything. You disappeared, she said. No one knew where you went. Not even the kids. I'm where I need to be, I said. I thought maybe you'd found someone. I did. I found me. She didn't like that answer. I'm scared, she said finally. Things are bad. Real bad. Are you on drugs? I asked point blank. No. You sure? She hesitated. Just long enough. I'm clean. Just broke. And the men I thought would help, they're not who I thought they were. I laughed, couldn't help it. You mean they didn't love you like I did? They didn't pay for your dreams or raise your kids or forgive your worst sins? Don't do that, she snapped. Don't act like you're some saint. I'm not, I said. But I was good to you. And you threw me off the 44th floor like I was trash. Silence. Then a whisper, I didn't know how high we were until you were gone. I almost hung up right then. But something kept me on the line. She spoke again, softer. I want you to write the will. The kids deserve something. Even if you won't forgive me, they didn't ask for any of this. That was her final move. The inheritance card. The one she played like a seasoned gambler trying to bluff with a losing hand. I sighed. I'll write the will, I said. But it's not going to say what you want. Click. I hung up. And for the first time since the skyscraper, I didn't feel guilt. I felt peace. I came back home in early December. Wes hugged me like a brother and told me I looked healthier. I did. My beard had grown in thick and gray, my back didn't ache from guilt anymore, and my eyes didn't constantly search crowds for her. It felt good. When I pulled into the driveway of my house, the house I built with my own hands, it was just as I left it. Quiet. Cold. Clean. No tire tracks in the drive. No footprints in the snow. But there was one thing waiting, a large white envelope wedged into the screen door. Handwritten on the front. Confidential, legal documents enclosed. I opened it inside, next to the fire I'd just lit. There were several pages, stapled and official looking, and a sticky note clipped to the top. You deserve to know the truth. Anonymous. At first, I thought it was another attempt by Mandy to manipulate something. Maybe a bluff. Another trick to worm her way back into my life, or into the contents of my will. But it wasn't from her. It was from a lawyer in town. And it was about paternity testing. All 5 of the children, who I had raised like my own, had undergone recent DNA testing, and not one of them matched Mandy. I reread that line 4 times. They weren't hers. My heart stuttered like a bad engine. I flipped through the pages again, my mind refusing to catch up. But there it was, in black and white. All 5 kids were born in hospitals under her name. All listed her as the mother. But none of them shared her DNA. She didn't birth those kids. She'd lied about everything. It took 3 phone calls and 1 visit to the lawyer's office to piece it together. Turns out, Mandy had been involved in a black market surrogate ring years ago. She had taken in children from other desperate women, some too young, some addicted, some trafficked, and claimed them as her own. She raised them, yes, but not from her womb. She had bought them. And I'd never known. Not once had she told me the truth. I stood in my living room, hands trembling, realizing I had raised children under a lie so large it made her affairs look small by comparison. But then came the second wave, one I didn't expect. Love. Not for her, but for them. Those kids, they were mine. Not by blood. Not by law. But by pancakes at the diner and late-night stomach flu and skinned knees and birthday candles. They were mine where it counted. I'd spent years thinking I was the backup father to a woman's reckless choices. But maybe, just maybe, I was the only person in those kids' lives who ever chose them. Not for money. Not for show. For love. That night, I wrote them each a letter. Nothing long. Just enough to say I missed them. That I'd see them soon. That they mattered. The next morning, I mailed them myself. But Mandy, she had crossed a new line. One I couldn't forgive. She hadn't just lied to me. She'd lied to the entire world about the very thing that defined her, motherhood. And it was time to confront her. In person. I didn't call her. Didn't send a text. Didn't warn her. I wanted to look her in the eyes before she had time to build a lie. I drove straight to the building she was renting with her latest wellness hustle, an empty storefront with a flickering energy readings and spiritual healing sign above the door. She never changed. She just changed the name of her scams. I parked across the street and waited a minute. Watched as she helped an older man in a wheelchair out of the shop. She smiled like she meant it. Touched his hand gently. Said something that made him laugh. She was always good at pretending. I walked in the moment the door shut behind the man. The bell above the door jingled, and she looked up. Her face froze. "Hey, baby," she said, smiling thin. I didn't smile back. "You got a minute?" She looked around the empty shop, then nodded. "Of course." We walked into the back room, which was all incense smoke and cheap curtains. She gestured toward a chair. I stayed standing. "I know about the kids. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I got the paperwork. I know they're not biologically yours. She turned slowly, then sat down. I raised them, she said. They're mine. No, Mandy, I said, my voice tight. You collected them. Like stray dogs or lost luggage. You used them. Told me they were yours so I'd stay. So I'd raise them. So you could look like the woman you never were. She didn't speak. You let me believe I was helping raise 5 children you carried in your belly. I stuck around through everything. Through the cheating, the lawsuits, the shame, because I thought, at least she's a mother. Tears welled up in her eyes. I did love them, she whispered. Still do. But you lied, I snapped. To me. To them. To everyone. Her face hardened. The tears stopped before they fell. Do you want to know why I did it? She asked. No. But tell me anyway. She stood. Walked over to the glass shelf near the wall and picked up a framed photo of her and the kids. She stared at it, then turned it toward me. My mom had 7 kids. Lost 4 to the state. 2 to heroin. I was the last. The one she kept just long enough to break. I was living in a halfway house at 19, working as a cleaner in a hospital. That's where I found the first baby. A patient, a girl, barely 16, gave birth and ran away. Disappeared. No ID. No family. She turned to me. I took him. Walked out of that hospital with a baby in my arms and told the world he was mine. My heart was pounding. I was alone, she said. And broken. But when I held him, I wasn't trash anymore. I was somebody. I wasn't thinking about scams or men or future lies. I just wanted to matter. And I did, for a while. And the others? Once I crossed that line, it got easier. I became the woman who took in the babies no one else wanted. Meth babies. Foster rejects. Back alley births. They weren't all stolen. Some were left. Some were given. But I lied about being their mother because I knew no one would trust me otherwise. Silence filled the room like cement. Why didn't you tell me? I asked quietly. She looked at me for a long time. Because you were the first good thing I ever had. And I didn't want the truth to scare you off. It did anyway, I said. She wiped her face with her sleeve. I lost everything, she whispered. No, I said. You gave it away. I turned to leave. But she spoke one last time. They still love you, you know. All 5. They don't ask about me. They ask about you. That stopped me in my tracks. Then I'll see them, I said. On my terms. She nodded slowly. You were always the better parent. I paused at the door, then turned back. You still don't get it, do you? It's not about better or worse. It's about real. And I was real. I showed up. You just showed off. I left without another word. The bell jingled behind me as the door shut. And for the first time since the skyscraper, I didn't feel pain. I felt closure. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in the diner, the same one where I used to take the kids every Sunday after church. It looked the same, linoleum floors, faded booths, and the old jukebox in the corner that hadn't played in years. I was sitting at the corner table, nursing black coffee, when the bell above the door jingled. And there they were. Not all 5. Just 2. The oldest, Jace, now 19, taller than me, hair tied back in a bun, and Nia, 16, with the same stubborn fire in her eyes that Mandy used to fake. Jace spotted me and walked over first. His face was unreadable. Hey, he said, not sitting. You really write that letter? I did. He nodded. Then sat across from me, arms folded. She said you found out. Yeah, I said. I found out everything. Nia slid in beside him. Her eyes looked tired. Older than her age. You hate her now? She asked. I took a breath. I don't know what I feel for her anymore. But I know what I feel for you. I miss you. All of you. And I don't care how you got here, or who gave birth to who. You're still mine. Nia teared up. Jace didn't. She said you wouldn't leave us anything, Jace said flatly. That she tried to fight for us in court. I leaned back. She sued me to get my property and money, yes. But not because she cared about you. She wanted leverage. We believed her, Jace said, voice quiet. We didn't want to. But she told us stories. Said you ran off with everything. Said you were bitter. Said you'd rather let it rot than give us a dime. I stared at him. She turned you against me. He nodded once. But you're here, I said. Jace reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. This came in the mail yesterday. From your lawyer. I unfolded it. It was a copy of my revised will. One I hadn't sent yet. I looked up. She's been intercepting our mail, Nia said softly. Has for years. She just got sloppy this time. I think she's scared. I folded the paper carefully. You read it? Jace nodded. You left the house and the business to us. I did. He looked at me for a long moment. I don't want it unless it comes from you, he said. Face to face. Not from a lawyer. Not because you feel guilty. I smiled, first time in a while. You don't owe me anything, I said. But I'd still like you to have it. All of you. Not for what came before, but for what can come next. Nia reached across the table and took my hand. I missed you, she said. And just like that, something in me began to heal. But the peace didn't last. 3 days later, I got a call from Wes. Turn on the news, he said, voice tight. I did. The headline read. Local woman under investigation for fraud, child trafficking links. There she was. Mandy. Being escorted into a federal vehicle, wearing dark sunglasses and silence. They'd found forged birth records. Falsified adoption papers. Bank transfers connected to overseas donors. It wasn't just a lie, it was criminal. And now it was public. I stood there staring at the screen, heart racing. The kids would see this. The town would too. The shame would land on all of us. And that's when the biggest twist came. She had named me as a co-conspirator. In signed statements, she claimed I knew from the beginning about the adoptions, and agreed to help maintain the false narrative for financial gain. My phone started ringing before I could even process it. It was my lawyer. We need to talk. Right away. The moment I walked into my lawyer's office, he stood and handed me a thick envelope. Federal subpoena. They want everything, emails, phone logs, bank statements. Mandy's statements named you directly. I sat down, hands numb. She's trying to drown me with her. He looked me in the eye. They think this goes back 15 years. Multiple states. You co-signed checks. Registered school forms. It doesn't look good. I didn't know, I said. God, I didn't know. I believe you, he said. But they won't. Not without something big. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the kids, my kids. How this would crush them. The looks they'd get at school, the doubt in their eyes. All the work to rebuild trust, gone. I drove. Past the diner. Past the empty gas station where I used to buy slushies for them on hot afternoons. Past the road that led to Mandy's storefront, now closed off with yellow tape. I ended up downtown. The 44th floor. The skyscraper. Where I had once found her wrapped in two strangers, smirking like the devil knew my name. I rode the elevator up alone. The building had been mostly emptied since then, vacancies, layoffs, bad press. It was quiet now. Sterile. The floor where it all shattered was sealed with chains. I stood by the window anyway. Staring out over the city lights. Wondering how a life can stretch so long and still feel like it's circling one moment. I took out my phone. Scrolled to a voicemail I hadn't listened to yet. From Mandy. It had come in a week ago. I hit play. Her voice was shaky, desperate. Hey. I don't know how much time I have before this all blows up. But I wanted you to know something. I named you because I had to. They gave me a deal, testify, or go away for life. But I left something behind. A folder. In the safe behind the mirror at the old cabin. Everything's in there. Every lie. Every name. And a letter, for you. I'm sorry. For all of it. I drove all night. The cabin was still there. Hidden under pine trees, on the edge of that forgotten lake. It was where we went on our fake honeymoons. Where she convinced me that love was complicated, but still worth it. I found the mirror. Behind it, a safe. I still remembered the code, our wedding date. Inside was a manila folder. Inside the folder were documents. Originals. Real birth certificates. Signed statements by social workers. A sealed confession addressed to the DA. And a letter. Handwritten. I sat down and read it by flashlight. If you're reading this, it means I've done something unforgivable again. I lied to save myself. But not from prison. From you. From the way you looked at me like I was still worthy of love. I couldn't carry that anymore. You loved me better than I ever loved myself. I hated you for it. I envied your goodness. And I tried to poison it. But this is the truth. I never wanted you to go down with me. So I'm handing you the sword. Use it. And don't look back. I never deserved you. But maybe our kids did. I turned the letter over. One last line. There's one more thing. Nia is yours. I never told you because I was scared you'd stop loving the others. But she's yours. You gave me something real, even if I ruined it. I dropped the letter. Just sat there. Heart in pieces. Of all the lies she told, that one truth was the one that crushed me. Nia was mine. She was mine. And somehow, through all the betrayal and wreckage, I'd fathered something real. Something good. The next morning, I handed the folder to my lawyer. The charges against me were dropped within days. The feds turned their attention back to Mandy, who had vanished before they could take her in. Gone. No trace. Some say she fled the country. Others think she walked into a river. But no body was ever found. A month later, I signed over the deed to the house to the kids. Gave them the property. The business. Everything I didn't need anymore. Everything except the cabin. I kept that. And Nia moved in with me. We fixed it up together. Painted the walls. Caught frogs. Talked late into the night about the things we'd both survived. And slowly, the weight lifted. One morning, she looked at me across the breakfast table and asked, "Do you think she loved us? Even a little?" I took a long breath. I think, I said, she loved what we gave her. And maybe, for a while, that was enough. She nodded. Then reached across the table and held my hand. And for the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Not rage. Not regret. But peace. Because even after everything Mandy had taken, I had kept the one thing she couldn't fake. A daughter. A future. A reason to keep climbing, even past the 44th floor.